Shall we go straight in with the children's sex book scandal? Because I have been reading this all morning and I am not easily shocked, OK? I'm a big believer in having difficult conversations, particularly with children, about issues which might protect them. But this book, Tonia, which is called Welcome to Sex by Dr. Melissa Kang and Yumi Steins, they're both Australians, has the branding of kind of cartoons. It looks like it probably would appeal to a primary school, even a nursery-age child. It's supposed to be for teens. But if you look at the images,
because you can buy it on Amazon from 10 years old.
Yeah, but how do you could buy it from 8 years old from Amazon, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Who would stop them?
The images are very, very childlike anyway. But it says things like, it's sort of issues about having sex, and it's trying to, sexting and the law. Some of the stuff that I find most disturbing is about the tech influence with digital. It says there are laws to protect young people and children from being abused by adults. This is about sending pictures online. But it can get messy if you or your partner are under 18. It can get messy. There's no sense in which it's safeguarding here about keeping children safe. It says sex is not necessarily going to be good the first time. It's going to be awkward, especially if it's with someone who is of the opposite gender to you.
Especially
it's the normalising of, well, homosexuality, fine. Homosexuality should be normalised. But it's almost like the presumption here is that you aren't necessarily going to have sex with somebody of the same gender.
But it's also why...
Sorry, of the opposite gender.
Well, but that's a fair presumption, isn't it? I mean, what they're talking about is to show children that as they grow up, it may be they will choose to have same-sex relationships. I don't think that's a problem. I mean, the issue I've got with it is whether or not it's age-appropriate. And it felt to me, I mean, Tonia and myself have been going through the book before we came in, and so we haven't read every word, but just looking at it, if anything, it should be a guide for parents to use that to talk to their kids about sex when they ask the questions.
There are things in here that have blown my mind. I mean, I'm showing pictures to Andrew Pearce.
I had to ask what one of these words meant, and I thought I'd been around the block once or twice. I didn't know what it meant.
There's a lot of very graphic images. Go on, Tonia.
No, the point of this is take it right back. This is sexualising children. I wonder whether Yumi Tasma and Dr. Melissa Kang have... I mean, in my opinion, someone who writes this type of book for infants, you know, under 10 years old, 8 years old, 7 years, do they have paedophile qualities about them? I don't know, because I wouldn't... we're mothers. Did you ever think about talking about sex with your 7, 8, 9-year-old? Was that necessary? It is not. And one of the things that all psychologists say is, once you sexualise the mind of a child, the younger you sexualise them, the more likely they are going to have problems with intimacy as they get older.
Yeah.
So what they're doing here is damaging, and it seems to be setting out some kind of weird agenda they call normal girls and boys, or normal women and men, cis. I refuse to be called cis. I am just a woman.
But that is the term. That is the term being used.
No, it's not the term. It's incorrect, and I won't tolerate it.
Who decided to use this word?
Academics.
I think it was academics.
But most people watching this program don't use the term cis. No, they don't.
But because
99% don't.
Because the transgender debate is...
No, you want to be called a trans woman, then you're a trans woman. I am not a cis woman. I am pure woman, and you are trans woman. You're changing your mind or coming up with...
I do want to say...
Just remind me what cis woman is supposed to be.
A biological woman.
Who's born... No, well, they identify as the sex in which they were born.
Yes,
but just to be...
It's a woman.
Biological woman.
We are, to the minds of academics who work in this area, we are cisgendered. We're all cisgendered, actually.
Yeah,
it's not about your sexuality, it's about your gender. But
you're happy with the gender you were born with.
I just want to say, as the authors are not here to defend themselves, there is no suggestion that they have paedophilic tendencies.
Oh, gosh. No, I said my opinion. That was my opinion. Anybody who wants to write this type of sexual stuff for kids as young as 8, it worries me. It worries me what goes through their mind, because this is not helpful. Talking about oral sex, anal sex, all the things that they're talking about, the different acts of sex, the different parts of their bodies, the different ways that different people have sex, for 8 to 10-year-olds is wrong on every single level. There is no correctness here.
But could it not help parents to answer questions? I'm agreeing with you about the age appropriateness of it. And so the idea of an 8-year-old picking it up and reading it all the way through, I would find quite disturbing. But if a parent had got hold of the book and gone through it, and that helped that parent to answer questions as and when they come up.
But this is for children. This is aimed for the children to read.
Look at the
You three are parents. Do 9-year-olds very often ask their parents about oral sex?
No.
No, and that's what I mean about the age appropriateness of it. It's unlikely that issue would come up until a bit later in your teens. But a book like this, looking at some of, as I say, I've not read every word, but looking at some of the advice that's given, it seems to be quite straightforward. And if you were a parent trying to explain to your child the answer to a question, it might well help that.
Do you know what I find most disturbing that is missing from this? It's the idea of intimacy.
Yes.
A relationship.
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah.
Privacy.
Yeah.
Age-appropriate language and behaviour. This is
all of that.
Incredibly liberal.
It's just about having sex and getting off, and sex
Yeah.
feels nice. And that's, you know, actually, sex is laden with lots of things if it's not done in the right atmosphere at the right
And
age.
it's very cavalier, Tonia, also about online sex, where children can be groomed
Yep.
by paedophiles and all sorts.
But that's what kids are
cavalier
facing.
about it.
The whole thing is that's what kids are facing nowadays.
But it doesn't. There's no warning here, Nigel, about it.
Well, I think again, looking at some of the bits I've seen, there is a warning that this is the kind of thing that can happen.
But they're not saying to be careful of it. They're saying it gets messy. That's the language they're using. What does that mean?
What they mean is you might end up in prison, but they're not using the clear language. It could get complicated. It could get messy if you send an image of your naked self to your boyfriend with your face in it and he sends one back and you're both under 16. Be really clear about it. That's breaking the law.
It is breaking the law, yeah.
And that's not what they're saying.
And also, even when it's not breaking the law and you are over 16, the advice on that should be, it's not really a wise thing to do. Don't do it. Most people have great regrets when they do things like that. Don't do it. Not just include it and make it like the norm. They are making sexual practices for underage children the norm here, which I find extremely worrying.
Yeah, and it's about being in a vacuum with no emotional, moral...
And if it was a small
context.
sex guide for parents to help their kids, why is it 300 pages? It's like it's probably longer than the Kama Sutra.
Well, you might know. Right, moving on.